right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our weekly 30-minute webinar. I appreciate you being here. My name is Trey Gonzalez. I'm a product manager here at Variphy, and I'll be your host for today's live webinar. We're joined by my good buddy, Victor Verba, a systems engineer here at Variphy. How you doing, Vic?
I'm doing well, Trey. I'm doing well. Excited about this release. There's some good stuff in here.
Oh, yeah, it's always nice. I think last time we did a webinar together, it was 16.0, so it's been a little while.
It has been a while.
It's progress, right? Variphy 16.2.
That's right.
So we're going to give everybody a first look into the new release. We're real excited about it. Just a quick note that these webinars are always recorded and posted within 24 hours, so you can view them anytime. To do that, just check out the webinars page at variphy.com. There you can see all our past and upcoming sessions. You can also find all these videos on our YouTube channel if that's easier for you as well. All right, so let's go into the agenda. We're going to kick it off with a quick overview about Variphy and what it is we do. And then we'll jump into the demo where Vic will showcase Variphy 16.2. After that demo, we'll pause for Q&A. Going to get some of your questions answered. So if during the presentation you happen to have any questions, please be sure to ask them in the chat. I'll be monitoring those, and I'll make sure to get all the questions answered after the demo. And then after the Q&A, we're going to reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang tight till the end and see if you won. Now, a little bit about us. Variphy is the preferred analytics and management solution tool for Cisco Call Manager, Contact Center Express, Cube iOS, Webex Calling, Zoom Phone, and Microsoft Teams collaboration. Deployable either on-prem or as a hosted cloud solution, we provide industry-leading call reporting and analytics, as well as customizable dashboards and widgets. CUCM management modules like remote phone control, change management, and dial plan management are also available. Now, like I said, today we are going to be focused on Variphy 16.2. So if you happen to have any questions on any of those other features that I listed, please contact us at support@variphy.com, or you can reach out to your account manager if you're already a part of the Variphy community. Then one more thing before we kick this off. For additional fee, Variphy offers an enhanced consulting service to our customers. Variphy's systems engineering team engages with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building, dashboard configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you with a dedicated Variphy systems engineer to do all of the heavy lifting, giving you a stress-free, hands-off experience. For more information, you can contact us or your account manager, and we'd be glad to speak more in depth about pricing and terms of service for our enhanced consulting services, or ECS. Now, let's get into the wild. I'm going to have Vic share. And remember, go ahead and type any questions into the chat while he's presenting.
All right,
take it away, Vic.
Go. Thank you, sir. All right, you should be seeing my screen there, Trey.
Yes, sir, I can. Sorry.
All right. No worries. All right. Sounds good. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Today, we're going to give everybody a sneak peek on Variphy 16.2, some of the features and changes you guys can expect when you update to Variphy 16.2. We do expect that to release in or around August 5th. So keep your eyes out for that. First thing I'm going to go ahead and draw attention to, you're going to notice I'm at the login screen. Anybody that's familiar with Variphy at this point is used to having to update license, whether it's a renewal, maybe you're adding some features or increasing your license count because your business is currently growing. So we have made some significant changes to how licensing is going to work within Variphy. Everybody's used to kind of having to receive a key file, then upload that key file into the Variphy system. So a little bit change you're going to see in 16.2 is there is no more key file that's going to have to be sent back and forth from a Variphy system. When you first migrate over to Variphy 16.2, you will need to, and the next time you need to update a license, rather than receiving a key file, you're going to receive a long string of characters, something similar to this guy here. All right. Rather than uploading the key file, you're just going to sign in and upload a string of text. This is what Variphy is calling our connected licensing. So essentially what this long string of text is going to do is allow your system to communicate with our licensing server. It will help dictate, how many features you have, what features you have within the Variphy application, as well as helping to very quickly increase license counts if you need to add additional license. So there's a lot of functionality that's behind what we're calling connected licensing to be able to allow you guys much more flexibility, much quicker responses to be able to update a license key. Some of the other great features that we see with 16.2 and the connected licensing is the ability for our existing customers to really trial some of our other features. We have a lot of customers that are migrating over to Webex or Zoom or MS Teams from their existing call manager cluster. In a moment, I'll talk a little bit about some other features built into 16.2 to help with that. But with that, there's no more really reliance on having to send a key file that has, let's say, you're on call manager and you're getting ready to migrate to Webex and you want to trial some of the Variphy features. There's no key file that you have to send back and forth anymore. There's no, expiration date that I have to worry about, the reloading my old key file. We found that to be, it would work. It was extremely effective. Our customer success team was awesome in being able to stay with customers and on top of customers when they are getting ready to expire. But there were times where, somebody would, their license key would expire because maybe they were trialing a new feature and they would momentarily lose access to dashboard or reports. And we realized that that's a problem. And the last thing we're ever here to do is interrupt our clients day to day. So with connected licensing, there really is no worry about that anymore. Your system can remain up and running. Let's say I'm trialing Webex or MS Teams or Zoom, and I have a full-on Cisco Call Manager license. Cisco Call Manager is going to continue to function. You're going to have all the reporting that you normally had, where your Webex may expire. And that's okay because perhaps you're going through a proof of concept. We have a lot of customers that do that. Plenty of customers are trialing a Webex, a Zoom, and an MS Teams all at the same time. And they're utilizing Variphy to get the big picture of all 3 or 4 of their current platforms and how they're performing and, help make decisions on what they want to move forward to. But they know that they're not purchasing 4 different platforms. So they may let one just age itself off. That's automatic now. You don't have to worry about losing access to any of your current licensed cluster. The other clusters will continue to age off, or vice versa. If you want to extend a proof of concept or go directly into a license, again, there's no need to email a license key back and forth. That can be done automatically on the back end. So, it's kind of magic. It'll be up and running and working as you need it. So we're excited to get connected licensing out. It's going to help our customers a lot, help maintain that day-to-day functionality throughout their Variphy system. Other thing about connected licensing I'll show really quickly is we did talk a little bit about how you load a license, and really it's just a matter of punching the key in there and loading. That key is really kind of a one-time thing. You don't necessarily need to continue to load new keys every time you want to try a new feature. As long as you're using connected licensing, you're going to notice that when I go in to update my license, I can, yes, upload a new key, which is going to bring me back to that screen that we were just looking at, or I can refresh my existing license. And as long as you're using connected licensing within Variphy, it's automatic. It's going to refresh the license and adjust any new key features, any expiration dates, any new add-ons or additions or unit types or anything like that, and that will be automatically done. Again, no need to go ahead and go back and forth emailing keys or finding old keys. It's an automatic process. Right. So again, great way. Going to help our customers out a lot to be able to just maintain the integrity of their system for their end users who may not care that they're moving over to Webex or trialing Webex, and they just want their dashboards when they want to be able to see their dashboards. A couple other things that I want to talk about in that same line when we talk a little bit about customers and the way we use connected licensing. You can also have a non-connected license. We are not getting rid of that and forcing everybody to connect out to our licensing system to validate your license. I think there's a lot of perks and benefits to being able to have that automatic licensing. Like I said, no need to send keys back and forth and things like that. It's a refresh button. It could be automated in the background, so that way the keys will automatically automatically refresh as your license renews and things like that. For those that are not able to talk to the licensing server, that's okay. We still can use a non-connected license. In a case like that, your process is pretty much identical. However, rather than refreshing a license, which does talk to our license server, you're simply going to get a new long string of text. And I went to the wrong spot. You're simply going to get a new long string of text that you'll paste into the UI to update the existing license. All right. So great way to really support both of our customers, either when they can connect out to our licensing server and update their license, or if they cannot. Again, a lot of this is really modeled after, a lot of the environments that we see now, whether they're cloud-based or even MS Teams or not MS Teams, Cisco Call Manager and its licensing model. You're not getting Cisco Call Manager license keys emailed back and forth. It's really connected through a licensing application. So with that, I did mention a lot of what we're doing as far as customers doing those migrations. So one of the other things that we've added into Verify 16.2 is the ability for Cisco Call Manager to continue to run and provide reporting, even if you've decommissioned your Cisco Call Manager. So being familiar with Verify, if you are familiar with how some of the background functionality of Verify works, Verify talks directly to the Cisco Call Manager. That allows us to pull back metadata, first names, last names, device pools, device descriptions, and things like that that we want to report on. Now, in that reporting, it does require that there is a call manager present for us to be able to communicate with. In other words, if somebody wants to report on device description, we had to have a call manager to go out to get the device description. With Verify 16.2, we are offering the option to what we call decommission a Cisco Call Manager. So as a lot of our customers are migrating their environments to some of what we call the big three here, Zoom, MS Teams, or Webex, they find that, okay, well, they don't want to continue to run their call managers. They want to remove those blades. They want to get that out of their infrastructure. It's the purpose of going to a cloud environment. So prior to 16.2, even if a customer no longer needed their Cisco Call Manager, but needed their Verify analytics, there still had to be either a subscriber or a publisher online for Verify to be able to connect to in order to provide that historical analytics. We recognize that that was a problem, so we do have an option to be able to decommission a call manager. That is a flat rate. So if you guys are interested or you guys have some call managers that are floating around out there, you're still paying per unit. In other words, a call manager was billed based on the number of phones. If you still had a call manager out there with 10,000 phones in it, you were still paying for 10,000 phones, even though there were no calls traversing through that call manager anymore. So with decommission, what you're going to be able to do is go ahead and decommission a cluster. Then you can now shut down all of the call managers. Verify no longer needs a connection over to the Cisco Call Manager to still provide that historic reporting. So we've done this because a lot of our existing customers and even some of our new customers that are starting to use Webex or Zoom or MS Teams are coming to us and they're identifying the fact that, hey, just because I'm moving to another platform doesn't mean that I don't need the old data. I still need to be in compliance with our regulations. In other words, I need 2 years historical data. I can't just shut down, the call manager or Verify and not have that 2 years. And that's really where this decommission comes in. It's going to give you a lot of the same abilities that you have now, running reports, having dashboards. Although when you stop and think about a dashboard, after a month or so, the dashboard's kind of not doing a whole lot because it's refreshing the old data over and over again or new data that you're not getting. But it is going to give you access to a lot of the tools, the change management features to be able to go ahead and decommission that cluster, but stay within compliance of your organization by keeping the historical data there available for reporting, but not even just available for compliance. Also for those times that you are doing migrations. I mean, it happens to us all the time where we may have a customer that comes back and they're like, well, somebody asked us to make a change as we moved over to, I'll use Zoom as an example. We need to know what the call volume was for the last 6 months prior to us moving that. Well, again, if you don't have a call manager cluster out there that still has the data reportable, you can't really go back to the old data and say, okay, show me the trending for the last 6 months that we were on Cisco Call Manager. Now show me the trending for the next, the 6 months that we are on Zoom or Teams or Webex. Again, that's where decommissioning a cluster is going to come in. It's going to give you that same reporting that you're used to, allow you to look at that historical data, but also stay within compliance, whether that's 1 year data, 2 years worth of data, or 10 years worth of data. So those are two great features that have been added to Verify 16.2 that you can take advantage of. Some of the other things that we went ahead and took care of in 16.2 is if you guys were using the Hunt Pilot widget previously, and when I say that, I mean the real-time Hunt Pilot widget, and that looks at hunt lines in a real perspective, both from an end user perspective or as well as a phone perspective. We did find an issue in one of our previous releases where if you had a Hunt Pilot widget and it was configured to look at the phones, not the users, and on top of that, you were also sorting it by the Hunt Pilot status, it would actually come back and return no data. So we do recognize that that was an issue, and that has been fixed in Verify 16.2. So if you guys were trying to leverage the Hunt Pilot status column on a phone-based real-time Hunt Pilot widget, you can go ahead and leverage that column once again. All right. Next thing I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about is some changes with Webex. With our Webex analytics, previously in Verify 16.1 and below, we leveraged the Webex API and the data that was available through the API during those development cycles. Webex has recently come out with a new field within their APIs to help determine ring time. So prior to Verify 16.1, ring time was actually having to be calculated based off of all of the rows of data, when it originated, when it was answered, when it ended, and then on to the next row. So, if you had calls that had 10 or 12 different rows, the ring time had to be calculated on each individual row. Within Verify 16.2, we've changed that, and we've started taking advantage of a newly released API field available in the Webex data. Kudos for our developers for getting this out the door once the API came out. And that's the ring time. So there's no more calculation between the Verify ring time, because what we would see are some issues where you may have a call that was never answered. So how do you calculate ring time on something like that, especially if ring time is not provided? So with Verify 16.2, we are leveraging the ring time fields in the Webex APIs to provide a much more calculated ring time field. So as you're looking at your queue-based information, as you're looking at your hunt groups, or even just as calls traverse through multiple people, the ring time in 16.2 has been improved to provide a more accurate ring time based on the different scenarios that a call can flow through. Ring times, transfers, hunt groups, auto attendance, things like that. Trey, before I go ahead and move on, and I'm going to get into some of the MS Teams changes here in a second, do we have any questions about anything that we talked to with regarding connected license, decommissioned, or the Webex ring time?
We've got quite a few connected licensing questions.
Okay, let's see if we can address some of those before we move on to the MS Teams. What do you got for me?
All right. So some questions about what if the server is restricted from the internet? I believe that part was covered with the on-prem side of things. Is that right?
You got it. That's correct. We do recognize that some customers do restrict it. We've got various ways to work with you. Of course, you can use a license still that is what we consider a non-connected license, and that is where you will just go ahead and re-upload a key each time you need to do your license. We do have customers that will open up firewall. We do have a specific address that you can go to, IP as well as port we will use. That is secure, of course. So for those customers that are restricted and do wish to be able to take advantage of connected licensing, we can absolutely work with you guys to be able to get you the right information that will be out on our knowledge base as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and there's some firewall specific questions here as well. Will there be a network document on the connected license, assuming firewall policy will be needed for on-prem appliances?
Yep, there will be. So under our standard configuration network documentation, it's pretty straightforward. It's an API that you go out to be able to connect. Standard port 8443 or 443. I'm sorry, used to 8443. So standard port 443. But yeah, we can absolutely, that will be out on our knowledge base under our network and configuration settings. And again, that is optional. We do strongly encourage people to be able to use it. It does make your life easier as well. But we recognize that if you can't, well, you'll still be able to go ahead and get a license through Verify.
All right. And there's about 4 or 5 more questions here.
Okay.
Is there any interruption in service during license key change in already licensed services?
No, we do not expect any interruptions of service during this change. The system will continue to work as normal. I mean, from your perspective, essentially the first cutover to use the new license will really look identical to what you would do now. You're just not going to receive a key back and forth. We're basically going to send you a string of textual values, and then the system's going to work just like it would. So think of it, we're eliminating a step by having to worry about getting a key and uploading a key. We're going to give you the long string of text. You just paste it into the UI and no interruption service.
Awesome. All right. So apologies if you already answered this one, but just for the sake of covering all of them here, somebody asked about the string that you put into the license area, that it looks like a certificate string. They're asking, is our on-prem server then needing to talk to verify certificate servers? Then they asked about firewall rules, and will they need to be configured?
Yep. Okay. Good question. Yes. So anytime you're talking to any server from an outbound perspective, especially when you're going to an API, there's always a certificate involved. Yes, the on-prem system will authenticate the certificate to the Verify API. So to answer that question, yes, there is a certificate string. The string that I posted in there is not a certificate string, although I can understand where where you're coming from. We're using kind of the same 64-bit encryption, so it does look like a certificate string, but that string itself is not a certificate string. But to answer your question, yes, there are certificates that will communicate back and forth between the Verify API and the on-prem system. So there may be some Verify API certificates we need to update with your system. If they are not already on there, we are finding that a lot of customers, the certificates are there. We're not using anything out of the ordinary. We'll put it that way.
Awesome. All right, and we'll tackle these last 3 because they go up to there's 2 connected licensing and then 1 decommission question. A couple more pouring in here, but I think those can get touched on in the end.
Okay.
So someone's asking here, with connected license, if you have a down event in your licensing servers, what period of time would it continue to run without issue during outage?
Perfect. Excellent. Excellent question. It will run for your licensed license period of time. So if you are using a connected license and something drops, you no longer have access to the licensing server, you're going to continue to run as normal in the background until you come back up or anything like that. So in other words, it is still going to be the certificate string that we're passing back and forth will still be stored locally to give you access to your Verify system.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Last connected licensing one for now is it 443 communication outbound? And then they said proxy support, question mark.
It will be 443 in and out because you will be authenticating out, and then 443 will be coming back in to register with Verify what features you have the capability of accessing. Proxy support. Proxy support will come more from your internal network. So I would imagine the answer is going to be yes. We have plenty of customers that work with our proxy now, whether they're using our MS Teams or our Webex. So yeah, proxy would be supported. A lot of that will come from your internal network though.
Awesome. And then last question here is about decommissioned. With the decommission feature, do the recommended storage requirements change?
So I guess that's a yes and no. You won't be receiving new data from your Cisco Call Manager, so they won't be increasing. However, and I guess let me put it this way: if you have 10 gig of data out there already, it's going to slowly decrease because you may be purging. If you're keeping 10 years worth of data, the system will continue to purge off older data, but it's not going to increase. So yes, you still need that storage to be able to manage what you currently have, if that makes sense.
All right, excellent. That wraps it up for now. We'll cover the rest at the end during the Q&A time.
All right, great. All right, so last but not least, I want to cover some of the MS Teams changes that have been added into Verify 16.2. So a few things, and again, I'm going to cover these, but keep in mind, we've got a webinar coming up on August 7th that's going to go much more into detail for some of these. So if you guys want to register for that, it's going to be more of a workshop where we're showing you how to leverage some of the new features and things like that. This is going to really be in the interest of time. I'm not going to be able to get too deep into it, but I do want to touch on some of the things we have. One, you're going to notice if you're running MS Teams, we have added the ability ability to go ahead and search information based off of your queues, your call queues. All right, so this is a new feature for Verify 16.2. So you will have your call queue information here, and you can easily and quickly search for a call queue. The other one I want to talk about as far as call queues go, and let me pull up some older data here, because I know I've got something in here. You know what, let's just do the current, what quarter is this? Let's do the current quarter. Yep, and of course I don't. Let's try the new call queue. And I don't have anything for the current quarter. Let's try the previous quarter. There we go, thinking. All right, so call queues, it's gonna make it much easier to search. We have a ton of people that have always come back to us for call queues. So of course, we're gonna be able to search those now very easily just by picking the queue. We've also added call queue name to the call detail. This was previously not in 16.2 as well, being able to easily identify which calls are going through the call queues, also being able to search those call queues specifically. This opens up a whole new world of reporting. Again, we're going to get a little bit more into that reporting in Verify in that August session on how we can leverage some of these new fields to give you more in-depth and easier reporting from both a dashboard and a report perspective. Also, one of the things that you're going to notice that is a little bit different here is call queues persist now through the call data. One of the reasons that this was call queue reporting was difficult in previous versions is because MS Teams doesn't really persist the call queue. It says a call came into the queue, but you really have to figure out who's part of that queue, who's not part of that queue, if it got transferred out of a queue. That was not obviously part of a call queue call. It was a result of a call queue call. So with Verify 16.2, we have started to persist the call queues through all of the users or agents that are answering those calls now, giving you, again, a much better perspective on the call data. One more thing I will mention, again, we're going to get more deep into this, is with this call queue information, there have been some adjustments to how the detail of the calls comes through. One of the things that we recognize through the MS Teams data is when a call came through the queue and got answered. So let's say I called through the queue and Trey answered that call. The MS Teams data wasn't 100% associable back to Trey. It actually said that Trey initiated the call. And we could still report on that. We would just have to kind of finagle the report a little bit, for lack of a better word, because it wasn't 100% accurate. Trey actually received that call. So we have made some adjustments to our logic to work with the MS Teams data and recognizing calls that go through call queue, who agents are within the MS Teams environment, and then basically reversing what we were receiving and tracking the call back to, in other words, Trey as the called user, not the person placing the call. So you're going to notice some adjustments in there. That's going to may affect some of the existing reports, but believe me, it's going to make it a heck of a lot easier for everybody out there to be able to report on your call queued calls and subsequently who is answering those and how many of those are going. So if you guys are interested in some queue calling for MS Teams, by all means, make sure you join us on August 7th for that webinar, because my friend Jim over there will get into some good call queue reports with some of the new options we have here. The other thing I want to go ahead and talk about, which was a nice addition here, is if you're familiar with our data grouping, there's any number of ways that you can group on names, users, departments, different parts of organizations. However, in doing that, let's say I'm grouping on a name. A name doesn't have to just be associated to my organization. A name could be associated to Trey's department, but I don't want those. I may just want all of the people that are in my department. Or there may be no name at all. If you look through many of our calls, you can see that a lot of calls coming from the outbound don't have a calling party username. A lot of times we don't need to see that on a report. When I'm running a report for my group, I kind of just want to see my group, and I don't really need to see the people that are not associated to my group or don't have a name at all. So if you're looking for 16.2, you do now have a way to toggle those off and really just see the calls that are associated to names and not that unassigned user or unassigned department or unassigned cost center. You're going to be able to get just a true depiction and broken down by however you're deciding to group that information, whether it's by name, department, address, or any of the above. You will be able to exclude ones that maybe are from external people that don't have a department. So great option just for shoring up the reports. Last but not least, one thing I'll go ahead and talk about before we jump back in and answer any questions is going to be user security. Another addition to the MS Teams environment was the ability to add a group by, restrict by department. So what that means is if you're building your restrictions in 16.2 and you're building in some MS Teams restrictions to get a little bit more granular, what you have now is, whoop, I didn't want to do that. There we go. Now you can view as department. In other words, if I'm logging in and my department is technical support, when I run a report, the only thing I can access is technical support. So we're adding a different restricted visibilities basically off of one click. Now, that doesn't mean you still can't add extremely restrictive abilities by using search set restrictions. If you want any more information on how to utilize search set restrictions, we've done some great webinars on how to leverage these. But we also like one click. We like to make life easier for people. So we know that a lot of times as a manager, I only want to see my own department, or you guys as administrators, you only want your users to see their own department. So now you can come in, click view as department, and it will only give them access to their department. And all right, Trey, I'm going to go ahead, and I know we are right up against the clock, so I'm going to pass the ball back to you. Any other questions?
We've got two here. One of them is in regards to any possible security enhancements in 16.2. I don't believe we covered any here today, but anything that you can think of off the top of your head that we're including in the new version?
Predominantly what we just talked about, which was the MS Teams. I don't know. Security enhancements it can go pretty broad. If there's something specific,
right.
we'd be more than happy to kind of talk to you about that. If you have some issues or some concerns, but predominantly just adding the view as own department for MS Teams is really what we have in 16.2 from a security enhancement. But again, if there are some specific things that you had in mind, please reach out. We don't have enough time to get into all of the kind of what I'll call behind the scenes things.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yep. And then last one here, back as a follow-up question from the connected licensing stuff. So 443 inbound is an established connection that was on the outbound conversation, correct? They said there's no way we can have an inbound 443 rule to a server not in the DMZ. I think they're just looking for some clarity there. They may need to reach out to us personally if it's not anything we can answer here on the call.
Yeah, let's go ahead and reach out to us personally. Yeah, we definitely recognize DMZs, familiar with them, worked with plenty of them in my time. So yeah, by all means, let's go ahead and have a conversation on that so we can just get a better understanding of what you're talking about. It just sounds like it's outbound communication only. And again, I may be from the DMZ and I may be, again, misinterpreting that. But yeah, absolutely, we can reach out and have a different conversation.
All right. And thanks again to everybody who attended today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule here to join us. Our next session is going to be on July 31st. John and Dre will cover grouping statistics and how to use them to optimize your dashboards. All right. My name is Trey Gonzalez. And again, I was joined by my colleague, Victor Verba here. If you haven't already, please feel free to add us on LinkedIn. We'd love to connect with you. And with that, I conclude today's webinar. Have a great rest of your week, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all.